Before we start, I would like to ask your help to do two things. First, tell a friend or two who you think might like the show. And second, please rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. The more reviews the show gets, the more likely it will even appear in search results. Thank you, and now on to the show.
They make the trek out to Burning Man for a week and a day. After a lot of work, oh, there's a lot of play. Party, 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 drama, 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 bitch, bitch, bitch. Year after year, they come back to scratch that itch. They all say their lives have been changed. After many years, lives have been rearranged. That change is what this show is all about. You'll see the impact of Burning Man up and out. So sit back, relax, and cancel all your plans. These are the stories about the shadow of the man.
Hello, and welcome to the Shadow of the Man Show. I am your host, Andy. No worries, it's that Andy. And today on our, this is going to be the season premiere of season 2 episode. We have the one, the only Danger Ranger, or Michael Mikel. What do you prefer to go by?
Well, I actually go by many names. In the Burning Man community, of course, I am mostly known as Danger Ranger. In the Cacophony Society, I have many aliases, actually, the different events that I've done. I've counted 32 different aliases that I've used in different Cacophony events.
So how did it all begin with Cacophony for you? Because before the man, there was Cacophony, like for you. So like,
I've always been interested in like the surreal and the absurd and playful, and it was 1986, actually the same year that Larry started to burn on the beach, that I encountered the beginnings of the Cacophony Society. I found this newsletter in a grocery store south of Market, and it listed all these wonderful things that you could do during the month. Crazy events, gatherings, pranks. And so I started going to these events, and it was just at the very beginning of the San Francisco Cacophony Society, which of course has its roots in an earlier organization called the Suicide Club, which was started in 1972 by a man named, actually 4 individuals. Gary Warren was the primary driver out of these people. They found themselves out at a pier in San Francisco with heavy waves washing upon them, and they were holding on to the chain rail, literally, for their lives. And it was an experience like none other, and they felt so alive. And so they started this group called the Suicide Club, whose purpose was to live each day as if it was their last. And they did all kinds of wonderful things, a lot of underground and urban explorations. And I heard about them in the late 70s, I guess it was. And I heard rumors of the things that they were doing, but they were so far underground, I couldn't make contact with them.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually, the Suicide Club disbanded in 1982, along with the death of its founder.
Oh, what happened?
And in 1986, a group of old suicide clubbers decided to kind of restart something, and they called it the Cacophony Society. And I got heavily involved in that at the very beginning. I started to do events. The first event that I did, I was somewhat dismayed at the beginning because only 6 people showed up. Only 6 people showed up at this event, my first event. But the next morning, the next day, it was on the 5 o'clock news on TV. So I was certainly hooked This is great.
What was the event? What did you guys do?
The event was the Ollie North Shredding Party. And that was the time that Oliver North was going around speaking about the Contra affairs and everything that was going on in the Middle East. And I had gotten some copies of these secret documents that were related to that. And Ollie North was going to be speaking down on the peninsula from San Francisco down in Redwood City at this amphitheater down there. And so there was this whole Iran Contra Costa thing going on. And um, so I put in an announcement, a notice that we were going to shred secret documents the night before he was going to be speaking in this amphitheater. And we showed up with an old RV, and we had a shredding machine, electrical shredding machine, and we were going to shred these documents, and a couple of bottles of champagne. And I thought it was going to be great fun. But also, I was involved with a lot of electronics recycling. My background is in Silicon Valley. And I had these little computer chips, about a 1 inch square with some circuit boards with chips on them. And I stuck double-sided tape to the back of them. And I told the 6 people there, we are going to put these secret listening devices around the amphitheater doors and windows so we can record what he says. So it was infinite. It was innocent fun, and these chips were out of copy machines actually that I had found, and we were around it, and we stuck them on the doors and windows that night around the amphitheater. And then we proceeded to drink champagne and shred secret documents, and that was all. We left, went home. But sometime early in the morning, the security service went around and they spotted these circuit boards, and it was a bomb threat.
A bomb.
So they called out the bomb squad, and the police were
Wow.
there, and then the news showed up the next morning, and it became a big thing. And I remember the sheriff of the county saying, holding one of these circuit boards up and said, we don't know what this is, but we're going to find out. And that was my first Cacophony event.
Wow. So that was 19.
And that was also the launch of my first alias name. I was Sergeant JFO, just following orders. Also at the event, we wear these pseudo military uniforms that we had decorated too. So Cacophony was all about pranks and costuming and doing these ridiculous things.
Yeah, yeah. So I saw also like you guys had would do like a dinner like in a bunker. There was some sort of like you all dressed in white and you painted the bunker.
There was a lot of urban exploration, intrusion events that we did. We did a couple. We like to explore places that weren't being used.
Mhm.
Underground tunnels, military bunkers. We did several events in the old military bunkers out at Fort Funston.
Yeah.
And also on the other side of the Golden Gate Bridge, so these military bunkers that had been built during World War II, to fight off the Japanese invasion that was going to happen
Yeah.
on the West Coast. And so we found the ways to get into these places, and we did events. And the first one was called the Atomic Cafe. And that was at Fort Funston over near Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. And John Law and I were very active in working together on these things. And we found a way to get in. And we managed to open this hatch, this small hatch, which led down a ladder and inside. And we put a fake lock on it. So it would look like it was locked, but only we knew how to turn the bolt to open it up.
Uh-huh.
And we organized an event called the Atomic Cafe. And the scenario was it's the end of the world. And the remnants, the survivors, were gathering together to have a dinner together at the end of the world times.
Last Supper.
And we brought in a bunch of art students, and they painted the whole inside with apocalyptic scenes and bombs falling. We brought in round tables and chairs. We had checkerboard tablecloths. We brought in a generator, and we were playing duck and cover movies. And we held this great dinner. And that was the first Atomic Cafe. Uh, After that, the second Atomic Cafe was even more grand. There was this abandoned military building, a seven-story building owned by the government, south of Market near Townsend, and a huge building, 7 floors, and a basement. And we found a way to get into it, of course. And we organized the second Atomic Cafe. And in this one, we told everybody to meet at a bar south of Market. And so the night of the event came, and there was about 55 people in the bar. And we had rented a 24-foot U-Haul truck. And we pulled up to the bar, and we had everybody get into the truck. And we closed the door, and we drove several blocks to this building that was owned by the government, which hadn't been used for 14 years. It was just abandoned. And it had a giant roll-up door, drive-in truck door. And we drove the truck into this and down into the basement. We had lookouts, spotters on the roof of the building across the street with radios advising us when it was safe to go in. And we had rigged this building and planned it weeks and weeks in advance. And got in there, we opened up the door, and people climbed down the ramp out of the truck. And there was a line of candles leading to these giant blast doors. And they all came up to these doors, and we opened the doors, and inside was a live band playing with laser lights and a fog machine and tables and music, dance. It was just crazy.
So how many people did you stuff in the back of this truck?
55 for that one. And then
No idea where they were going, and he just
no. And we had taken the generator and we ran the exhaust into the plumbing, so it was exhaust. Send the exhaust up several floors out to the roof stacks, so we wouldn't, have a problem with exhaust. And we had a great time. And after the event, loaded them all up in the truck, closed the door, and drove them out. To this day, they don't know where they were at.
That's awesome. Was that also 1986 or this roughly around similar?
That was 80. I'd have to look. 87.
Yeah.
I think it was. That was when 87, 88. I started getting very active. And all there were 3 Atomic Cafes, and the third one, they were all within a year. And the third one was even larger and more people and a bigger building over in the East Bay. We found out on the fringe of Berkeley, there was this abandoned toothpaste factory. There's a complex of buildings with underground, and we brought in, it took 2 trucks loads of people to bring them in this time. And we brought them in again to this bunker. First, they went through this courtyard, and they went down through a hatch and a hole in the ground. And inside was music bands. We brought in couches and furniture. We had transformed the underground environment into a performance space, basically.
How would people find out about this? Get involved?
Hmm?
How would people find out about it and get involved?
The Cacophony site, we put out a monthly newsletter. This has actually been going on. The Suicide Club produced a monthly newsletter too, but it was very small and very secretive. And the Suicide Club actually grew out of a group called Communiversity, a free university in San Francisco. It was a class to begin with, which
Really?
became the Suicide Club.
Hmm.
And so there was a monthly newsletter that Cacophony would put out, and it was called Rough Drafts because it was a rough draft of what was happening. And I got involved. I eventually became the newsletter. I eventually became the editor of the newsletter, and I began to push Cacophony outward. I thought we were doing such wonderful things that more people should get involved. And unlike the Suicide Club, I decided that the Cacophony Society should be open to everyone, and anyone who showed up could attend. So I began to promote uh, the Cacophony Society,
Hmm.
and even to the point where I thought, this should be happening in other cities. So I launched the Los Angeles Cacophony Society at a time when I was working down there. I was a contractor working with computer systems with Caltrans. And I started the LA Cacophony Society by printing their first monthly newsletter with a list of these incredible events that had already happened because it was an expired newsletter. But I put them out there so people would see that, oh, darn, I missed this. I should have been there. And so all of a sudden, people started showing up to the next one. And I found somebody who showed up. Uh, his name was Al Reidenauer. And he became known as Reverend Al. And he became the leader of the Los Angeles Cacophony Society. And then we expanded even further. We had a Seattle Cacophony Society, a Portland Cacophony Society, New York, Houston, and we even got to London. There was a London Cacophony Society.
London.
So the idea of cacophony spread, and it was all about doing things that were outside the normal boundaries. The Cacophony Society was a randomly gathered network of free spirits united in the pursuit of experiences beyond the pale of mainstream society. That was our motto.
Wow.
But LA Cacophony took it to the next level. Reverend Al did some of the most incredible pranks that you could ever imagine. They did an event called Cement Cuddlers. They went to a Toys R Us store and they bought a half a dozen teddy bears, little teddy bears, and they took the stuffing out and they poured wet cement in them and then sewed them back up. And they made a tag to go with them, complete with the barcode, which could be read by their machines, the checkout counter. And this tag said something like, "Oh, little child, do not let my soft exterior fool you, because inside I am hard as a rock. Like you must also become as you grow up." And to top this off, they put these in different Toys R Us stores, and then they went to a Toys R Us store and they attempted to buy one. They took this cement cuddler, complete with a tag, it says cement cuddler and all that on there. And the person at the cash register said, "Well, I don't know this. What is this?" And finally, then somebody pretended to drop it on their toe and it banged onto the floor. Then the manager was called, and then the district manager was called, and it was one of the amazing events that Reverend Al organized. Another one he did was at the old Chuck E. Cheese pizza parlor.
Oh yeah.
Used to be everywhere. He bandaged himself up all as a burn victim and went crazy around the big rat that they had in there.
Mhm.
And so that was really it did some amazing things.
Wow.
Eventually, in 1988, I was in San Francisco and I heard about some people who were going to go to the beach and burn a wooden man on the solstice. And I heard this through the network of friends that I had in San Francisco. And I assumed it was some kind of pagan event because it was on the solstice, fire and solstice. So I showed up there, and it wasn't a pagan event. It was Larry Harvey and Jerry James doing this kind of Dada art project of creation and destruction.
All right. Before we go any further, I just want to make clear to the listeners, like, you're not talking as a spokesman of the Burning Man project or organization or anything. These are just your stories.
My stories, these are the stories that I have lived. I am not representing Burning Man in this case. and all my opinions are my own.
Exactly. All right. Anyway, let's proceed.
Okay. The disclaimer.
Maybe we should have done it in the beginning. But anyway.
I've always been known for pushing the boundaries, and I've gotten into some trouble for it.
What?
So, yeah.
Anyway, so you show up at Baker Beach. Was it nice?
Yeah, and it was fun, and I thought, well, we should do this, and I should. So I decided the next year I kept in touch with Larry, and the next year they were going to do it again, and so I listed it as an event in the monthly newsletter
Ah,
in June. It was on June 22nd on the solstice. And all of a sudden, our newsletter had a subscription of about 600 at that time. So we had a pretty broad reach. So instead of the 20 people who showed up at the second burn in 1987 or 88,
there's 20 people in 88, and then how many
yeah.
people after you put
So 89 is when I listed it in the newsletter. And all of a sudden, 200 people showed up. And Larry had also, the first man on the beach was about 7 feet tall, kind of a cobbled together wooden figure, looked like kind of as much like a giant grasshopper as a man. But the next year he made it, I think it was 15 feet tall. And the year after it was 20 feet tall. And finally, when I listed in the Cacophony Society newsletter, the man was 30 feet tall. And all of a sudden, Cacophony poured out to the beach event.
That was 1989.
1989. And they had some structural problems. The man actually broke about mid-waist. And we burned him anyway. But we had radios, and we were looking for the police to show up, and so we set fire to before the authorities could arrive. There was no permit, no outlaw. We were all outlaws, if you will. And then in 1990, again, listed in the Cacophony Society newsletter. And we were also involved now with helping building the man, doing the stuff. And of course, Larry, because of my contact, was also showing up at Cacophony events. And he was at the last Atomic Cafe number 3, and did an incredible speech to a crowd that assembled below. Talking about the end of the world and how our cities are decaying. Somewhere there is a copy of that talk, that speech that he gave. He was on a balcony underground into this giant crowd of people.
Wow.
And it was really, really, really amazing. So he was involved and was showing up at Cacophony events and at our parties. And so there was this merging of Cacophony and Burning Man. And finally, in 1990, we showed up on the beach with about 800 people. And the authorities came and said, you can't do this here. You've no permit. And we had the man was erected. And so Larry negotiated with him for a while and said, okay, we'll make a deal. Let us have a party around the man and we won't burn him. And that's what we did. The crowd almost rioted because they wanted to burn them. Of course, the 2 cops looked around and saw these hundreds of people, and they left after the agreement. But we kept our word, and we did not burn the man. So we took the man back apart, took him back up the beach, and we put it in storage in this parking lot over on 11th Street in San Francisco. And not knowing what to do, what do we do now? We got this wooden man. But it was a few weeks later, we were at a party at this old Victorian house on Golden Gate. It was a legendary place. Incredible cultural connections were made at this. The parties we had were amazing there. And someone brought over a videotape of this event. that took place on this vast, dry lake bed. It's a place like we'd never seen before. And it was a video of a croquet game. Only the croquet ball was 8 feet in diameter. And for mallets, they were using pickup trucks. And we looked at that and we said, we could burn the man out there. So a few weeks later, on Labor Day weekend, we loaded the man into a rental truck and drove out to the Black Rock Desert. There was maybe less than 90 of us at the first event in the Black Rock Desert. And we pulled down off of the asphalt onto the dry lake bed, and I had everybody get out of the trucks and cars. And I took a stick and I drew a line on the ground. And I said, on the other side of this line, everything will be different. We all then stepped across that line together. And that was the beginning of going out to the Black Rock Desert and burn the man. We drove way up there in the north. We set up the man, and camped out, and burned the man on Sunday night and went back.
So I take it
And that was the first one.
RVs and gigantic generators and lasers.
Yeah, yeah.
None of that, right?
And John Locke worked in a neon company, fixing neon. So he had all this extra neon. So he arranged neon around the bottom of the man, first man in 1990. It's kind of a decoration. But then the next year, it was listed in the Cacophony Society newsletter, and we were beginning to reach out more and more about Burning Man and what was happening. And next year, 1991, there was neon on the man, and it was like a giant beacon. You could see it for miles, and it really attracted people. With my background in electronics, technology, I created the first Burning Man mailing list, digital list with computers. I began to print out labels, and we began to mail out stuff. And Burning Man grew and grew. It literally more than doubled each year.
Mhm. So you guys weren't the only group of people out there at the Black Rock, right? Wasn't there like this Desert Site Works and then, like what Pepe Ozon and other people doing various
We
had that
There
all.
were groups out there. There were land sailor events that were there before we were. There was also a group of people from Berkeley that were doing bizarre events like they had a golf tournament. They would spray the greens with green food coloring, and they would play golf out there. So there were some absurdist events that were kind of happening out there. There was also an event, the wind sailors, they did a race where people made uh, wind sailors out of weird things like shopping carts and beds and stuff, put sails on them and did events. Uh, but as we came out there, we began to attract more and more people and activities. Uh, the first, Pepe Azan came out with us and did what was the first Lingam. I'd have to look up, see when that was. It was 1993 or 4. And he built this wire mesh sculpture and covered it with mud, filled it up with firewood, and set it on fire one night. And amid a group of performers around it, and that really grew into what was called Pepe's Opera that would burn on the night before the man burned. And that went on several years, and each time it got larger and larger, and there were 200 performers dancing in this orchestrated script. Yeah, 200 people there, and they would dance. They would do this elaborate performance on some theme around the fire temple. Pepe Pepe would write these literally operas, these scripts, and they would have groups of performers that represented different cults that would do dances of some sort. And on the stage, on the sculpture, they would have these acts and scenes that would play. And it was an elaborate opera. And then when he stopped doing that, that tradition continued as the temple itself. And the temple became its own thing as a place where you remembered those who had departed.
Yeah. Well, because back then, I guess the man burned on Sunday, right? And then so Pepe's opera was Saturday.
Yes,
Yeah.
Pepe's opera was Saturday.
Yeah. And then like later on, the man became Saturday, and then Temple became Sunday. So yeah, so this happened for a number of years, and yeah, the numbers grew like basically
Yeah.
doubled each year, right? Until I guess one of the big early.
1995, we were reaching a crisis, actually 94, and we started trying to charge, you know, tickets, sell tickets to the event. And we didn't have any way to really enforce people coming. But it was a challenge. So 2 points was one was cash flow was the problem because we were spending more and more, and hundreds of porta potties and the cost of the man and the structures. And so I put in a system where if you bought a ticket early, it was cheaper. But if you waited until just before the event, the price was much higher. Also, our staff was really being strained to manage the organization. And what I figured out is a system where you give people the responsibility and the authority for an area or a department. And so they became responsible for not only what they were doing, but for growing their own department. So it grew, then the departments began to scale up. And we were raising the ticket prices to hold the attendance down. So the organization growth began to grow to match uh, a growth rate of about 15 to 20% per year in the mid 90s.
Yeah. So then, what happened in 1986?
1996,
Oh, 96. Yeah, sorry.
yes,
Yeah.
1996 was the real dramatic year where we started to push it into chaos. It was literally, I mean, people were driving around every which way in the dust. 96 was really stressful. We had something like 7 vehicle crashes, interactions. Nobody was seriously hurt, but in one case, a truck with 55-gallon drums of water was roaring across the playa and hit another car. And you can imagine what a barrel full of water tumbling across the playa was like.
Water is 8 pounds per gallon.
Yeah. Yes.
55 gallons, 55 times 8 times. How many?
But the real crisis was, of course, the death of Michael Fury. It was a few days before the event was officially opened. He was working on the crew. He was a neon artist, and he had been at Bruno's drinking, and he rode a motorcycle, and he was going to go back to the camp from Bruno's in Gerlach, and he was intoxicated. His friends tried to convince him to not ride his motorcycle, but he insisted. And he drove out to the playa on the way out to the encampment. And he started playing. There was a slow moving van, several vehicles going, and he started playing chicken with his van. With this van, he was riding his motorcycle up close and veer off. And he did that several times. And then the last time, he just cut it too close, and he collided with the van. It's really sad.
That,
So that was the big trauma. And then during the event, there was a car that hit a tent. The rave camp was about a mile north of the main encampment. And so you had this driving back and forth. And there was another case where an intoxicated driver had ran over a tent and severely injured a couple of people.
So there's just something for the because there's some listeners who've never been to Burning Man or a lot of like newer listeners. Um, when you guys first went out in 1990, it wasn't a rave. I mean,
Oh, that's
music
right.
that you might have had like boom boxes or something, but there was no DJ or anything. So
Yeah,
like,
there wasn't no. Eventually, some DJs showed up. Turbo Ted in I think 1992 showed up with a boombox, and
the first like actual like DJ, like what we would know now as like, I mean, not quite like, what.
well, it wasn't but about a year later that Goa Gill showed up with a full-blown DJ outfit and played to a massive crowd of 30 people. And it was impressive that he came out here and really loved it. But in the early days, it was just kind of a large camp out. First real theme camp, I guess, was Peter Doty and Christmas Camp in 1993. But we were just kind of camped out and hung out together and shared drinks and stuff. And it was really interesting with the locals because, Nevada and Gerlach was on the frontier of the West.
Mhm.
And they would see all these freaks and weirdos drive through their town, this little town of Gerlach. Uh, the population in Gerlach was about 200 at the time.
200, right? 200.
And they would see all these people drive through town with Kirk. They would see all these people drive through town with colored hair, tattoos all over, and piercings everywhere. And then they would see them go out to the desert and they would burn this giant wooden man. And they said, well, they're a bunch of Satanists. That's what they are. And we finally figured out a way to get in with the locals. We were somewhat liberal minded. We all had firearms, and we came up with this idea of an event that we would invite the locals to. We did something called the drive-by shooting, in which we did this out at the edge of the mountains, so there's a safe backdrop. But we set up these stuffed toy animals along this road, and we would drive by them and shoot them from the back of pickup trucks and in cars. And the locals came along, and they thought this was great fun.
What year was
They
that?
said, well, they, you know,
The early on?
there's still a bunch of Satanists, but they're Satanists with guns, so they're okay.
There are kind of Satanists.
So we got in go with the locals, and they started coming out, and they became one of us, and it was great. So we merged really good with the local culture.
Probably just took a couple of years, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Wow. So then after 96, and I guess Burning Man started to professionalize and like
Yeah,
97.
well, 96 was the breakup. John Law, having come out of the Suicide Club, they always like to do small events,
Hmm.
and everybody was responsible, and he felt responsible for everybody attended. Uh, I was seeing how Burning Man was affecting people, and I said, "This is amazing. More people should experience it." But John wanted to end the event. He said, "We shouldn't do Burning Man anymore. People are getting hurt." And so he left the organization, sadly. So it's this philosophical divide between him and Larry and myself. I was always pro growth. I wanted to spread this idea out there. So I was with the pro growth. So Larry and I continued to do Burning Man after John left.
Yeah. Well, 1996, 1997, was a long time ago. Almost.
Yeah, the interesting thing after the horrific year of 96, the government was not going to give us a permit. So we looked around, we found this large ranch nearby. It was just over the hill in a place called Wallapai Valley, and it was private property. It was a ranch. But there was a small playa adjacent to this ranch. The playa was about 5 miles diameter. And we said, well, we could have the event there next to this playa. It was owned by the government, but the nearby land was private property. It was a ranch. But I was looking at the map of this ranch, and I noticed there was this one square that jutted out 20 acres onto this playa. And I said, we could have an event and we could burn the man on this corner of the playa and it would be private property. And so that's what we did. We we rented the Fly Hot Springs too. The ranch owner charges $200, and it was amazing. I saw 2 or 300 people in the water at one time in the big pool. It was an amazing sight. 300 naked people in this giant hot springs pool. So we did we did Burning Man 1997 on a ranch adjacent to the small playa, and everybody would run around on the playa. But the unique thing about the location was there was only 2 roads in. There was a barrier. There was fences, gates, and natural obstacles. There was a couple of local cowboys that tried to come in from the far side, and their truck hit the mud and was stuck there during the whole event. So there was no way to sneak in. So we had complete control and access. One of our friends, a burner, Larry Breed, whose name was Ember, was very concerned about the environment. And in 1995, he did this test. He set up a couple 100 feet of orange fencing, netting, to catch downwind debris as an experiment. And so after the successful event of 1997, which we had a new authority to deal with, was the county, which was another drama in itself. The county charged Burning Man $320,000 for needed fire services. They had to bring out their own fire department, their own fire trucks. We had our own fire department, our own fire trucks, but it didn't matter to them. But they wanted a fire truck there just in case. So there were 55 firefighters out there enjoying Burning Man, getting paid for it. And the sheriff was concerned about not getting the county's money, so he sent deputies out to collect all the money coming in at the gate. And that turned out to be a whole PR nightmare for the county. And finally, after the event, we found out they overcharged us by more than $100,000, and we got that money back. But the next year, we got an approval from the government to do the event again on the Black Rock. And this time, we put up an orange fence around the entire event before the event. So we had control of access. And that was the big thing.
And was that the same footprint as it is now? Was it like a basically
it has grown a little bit, but it's pretty much the same footprint. It's 7 miles across.
7 miles. Okay.
In the early days, it took a week to set up the fence. Now they do it in one day. The fence crew, it's amazing.
Well, I'm sure there's more volunteers nowadays.
And now we have whole departments that have grown. And one of the departments that was really unique, in 1992, I started a group called the Black Rock Rangers. The event in 1992 was way out on the far end, and the instructions that you got with your ticket were get off the playa, drive down this rutted road for 16 miles, turn right and go another 2.3 miles, and there's the camp. But of course, if you missed it by a couple of degrees, you went veering off into the desert and would get lost in the north end, and especially at night. So I bought 6 used Citizens Band radios, and I had 5 friends, and we would go out and we would look for people out in the desert that were lost. We'd see somebody driving around, and we would pull up and, oh, you're looking for Burning Man? Okay, follow me. And then we would go across the desert at 80 miles an hour and take them back to camp. So that was the first job of the Black Rock Rangers, was finding lost souls and bringing them back to camp. And of course, once we had the fence up, the focus became more internal, yeah, in resolving disputes and helping people. And that was the beginning of the Black Rock Rangers, 1992.
Oh.
And once we had the fence up, we had a gate that we could control access to. We had perimeter departments that drove around and protected the perimeter. Uh, and but
Are
it
you
was still
still?
a challenge. People would crash through the fence and sneak in.
Hmm.
And in the year 2000, I came up with this idea. The Black Rock Desert is literally a vast dry lake bed, and I was thinking this is kind of like a giant sea, and like ships in the sea that have radar, we could use a ship's radar to scan the horizon. And so in the year 2000, I set up the first radar on a tower, and we began to scan the city around, scan the horizon around Black Rock City, and we could pick up cars 10 miles away. We could pick up somebody walking to the fence.
Walking?
And after that, it was almost impossible to sneak in to Burning Man.
I'm sure it became a challenge for some people.
It did. And one of the most interesting sneak-ins was, people would often try to hide somebody in the luggage compartment
Oh
or
yeah.
underneath a truck or something. But the most amazing one, there was a circus performer called Rubber Boy. And he was thin and he could fold himself up. And he folded himself up into a suitcase
Wow.
that was 3 feet wide, 2.5 feet wide, and maybe 12 inches high, sitting on the front seat of a car. And the gate crew did not look inside that suitcase.
Well, how did you find out about it now after all these years?
Oh, the story got out.
Uh,
I think it was hilariously funny, actually. Yeah.
well, no, I mean, I think if anybody successfully got through, like that story must become legend.
Oh yes, yeah. There are so many legends at Burning Man.
I heard of stories of people like crawling on the ground, like for miles, and they're just like watching it on the radar. And they're like, "Yep, he's like 3 feet
I mean,
closer."
oh yeah, and more technology we added too was night vision. We we could we would drive around the perimeter. I loved working perimeter. It was so much fun. And we would cruise around slowly at night wearing night vision goggles with all the lights off. And I remember the radar control was saying, "Oh, we've got a group of people out by the gravel. There's coming in. It looks like about 20 people on foot." And I went up and cruising in the dark. I could see them. They couldn't see me. And I got within 50 yards and I turned on the headlights and the spotlights on my truck. And they all turned around and started running back out. It was so funny.
I mean, do people still attempt it to this day? Or
Almost never now.
yeah.
There was another incident, and again, it was when I was on patrol. And I got a notice on the radio. There appears to be a couple out on the edge. They're walking in, and I pulled up and turned on my lights, and they were just kind of crouched down on the playa. And I walked up to them. "Oh, you're trying to sneak into Burning Man?" And said, "Well, we don't have that much money." But I looked, and they were circus performers, and they had these bags of costumes. And I said, "You're the kind of people who should be at Burning Man." Put them in my truck and I drove them into the city myself and say, "Here, go ahead, make your contribution." So the thing that you need to keep in mind is for all the rules and regulations that I have made, I've probably broken almost that many too. There needs to be grace. There needs to be understanding about why we make rules and what's the purpose of them, and whether the rule is getting in the way of something good.
Yeah.
And so it's something I've always tried to make staff understand why they're doing what they're doing. Yes, we have a lot of rules, but try to remember and understand why a rule was created and what the
Exactly.
purpose of it
There's a
original intent.
rule reason for every rule. So after all these years and everything you've done, and you started the Rangers and brought, you drew the line that everyone like stepped across. Like, what's your involvement nowadays?
I primarily enjoying the event. I'm on the board of directors, and I am involved with high level decision making. And my main role is that of a, I guess, a senior elder. I am a spokesman. I do interviews. I talk to the press, and I occasionally give talks and lectures.
Do you ever go out and perimeter patrols anymore? Or?
Not so much anymore.
Well, okay. I think now it's point of interview. I want to talk about like your background. So, like, where did you grow up? I remember you posted something on the internet years ago. So, like, you grew up in Texas?
Yes, yes, I did grow up in Texas, so I have this Texas background, the West, freedom, riding horses.
So, like,
Uh,
rural Texas,
huh?
rural Texas, like, live on a like a ranch.
Primarily rural. I grew up in this several places in and around Texas. Southern Texas, San Antonio. I My adolescent and teenage years, I was out in a small town in a very wooded area. It was lots of trees and water. It was 20 miles from the city limits, but since that time, the city limits has completely encompassed this little town that I was a teenager at.
Yeah, sure. You learned some that outdoor.
Yeah. And I always the thing about Texas with wide spaces, there's challenges to because your friends were so far away usually. So uh, transportation getting there. So
How'd you?
I was very much a fan of the automobile vehicle. My first car was a 1948 Chevrolet when I was a kid.
Oh,
15 years old, I got my first car. I had a driver's license at 15,
what?
which you could do in the state of Texas at that time.
You still do that?
That meant when I was driving the car, there was no adult in the car at all.
Wow. Was the
But,
drinking age 18 or something?
huh?
Was the drinking age 18 back then too, or was it?
The drinking age, well, if you were with your parents, you could drink at any age. But the age was 21.
Ah,
But the thing about Texas then at the time I was growing up, and even not too long after, is that you could drink and drive as long as you weren't drunk. You could drive with a beer in your can. It was not in your car. It was not illegal. As long as if you got stopped, you could prove that you weren't
yeah. How did
drunk.
that test work?
So, crazy idea, but the laws have changed.
Is it just like a subjective, so it's like,
Yeah.
Sheriff Phil was like, well, I think you had one too many this
Well,
time.
I was driving a tractor when I was 8 years old, so my grandfather's tractor.
So how long did you live in Texas for? Like at what point did you move out to California?
I came out in the service, actually in the mid to late 60s.
Oh,
Uh,
where did you, how did you serve? Like what
I
branch?
did service in the Navy out of the Bay Area. And I went to Vietnam.
Oh, really?
Yes, I'm a Vietnam veteran. And that was crazy. It was like apocalypse now. And I started out very pro military, but by the time I got out, I was against the war based
What
on
was
what
your
I'd seen.
job? Like what was your special? What did you do?
I was in primarily ship's navigation. So we once went into the Gulf of Tonkin and lobbed shells into the jungle at an unseen enemy. It's bizarre.
Wow. So were you, what are they called? Blue water? Was it like out in the ocean, or did you actually like kind of go more like inland?
Yeah, blue water primarily,
Yeah.
ship that I was on. But
Wow.
yeah, I remember once we stopped in the middle of the Pacific Ocean and went swimming.
Really?
It was such a bizarre feeling. You get off this ship and the bottom is a mile below you.
Just black.
You're swimming out there and there's nothing out there, and you know that this ship is your only chance of survival. And also, there's big fish down here. You don't know what might pop up.
Oh yeah. So how many years were you in the service for?
I was in 6 years,
Just a,
and when I got out, was it was a time of the whole uh, cultural shift was happening. I grew my hair long. I worked in the tech industry and gotten very involved with the counterculture in the Bay Area.
oh, so then it kind of led you into your like cacophony years. Yeah.
Yes, it was kind of a nice leader in that. I read a lot of interesting things. The thing that really affected my worldview the most was I discovered the City Lights bookstore,
Hmm.
and I got a copy of Allen Ginsberg's Howl, this epic poem that was written in 1956, and it's a poem about America and everything. And I forever will have the opening line from that poem embedded in my brain. I saw the best minds of my generation destroyed by madness.
Um,
So I gotten very involved with the counterculture of the Bay Area and started doing cacophony events, pranks.
yeah. Led you out to the Black Rock
It's
Down.
also involved with a group called the Billboard Liberation Front.
Oh yeah, yeah. Is that part of
We
cacophony?
would go
Or is it
out at night and we would change the message on boards next to busy freeways. It was a lot of fun. Mostly absurdist comments,
no?
but we organized a whole team to do this, and we would do paste ups on billboards, and we'd change the message to something bizarre, strange, or some commentary about the world.
A version of that kind of persisted like in through the Burning Man years, right? Like remember telling people to
Yeah,
cut
yeah, a lot of that.
and change logos. It's kind of a
Yeah,
version.
that ethic. It was counter. It was a. We tend to be anti-consumer. We were against conspicuous consumption.
Hmm.
Idea here in America we have this giant consumer industry, which we're gobbling up the Earth's resources and destroying the planet, all for the next newest thing. And so it was kind of a rebellion against that attitude. Even in the Cacophony Society, a lot of the ideas that came out of that. I still do get most of my clothing from thrift stores. I'm a big thrift store shopper. Uh,
And you don't live in the Bay
my
Area.
car is 50 years old. You know?
Yeah. Sadly, I had a Toyota Tacoma with 185,000 miles on it that I just got rear-ended, and I
Oh, yeah.
four new tires, four new brakes. I was like, I'm taking this to 300,000 or more, and then I got rear-ended, and now it's gone. Like,
And
"Ah,
of course, the
damn
whole
it."
car culture thing was a part of that. When I was just at the beginning of Burning Man, and it was 1989, the Loma Prieta earthquake hit San Francisco. And the day after, I was walking around Haight Street, Haight Ashbury area, and I came upon this green Oldsmobile stand that was crushed by a brick wall. The back of it, giant pile of bricks on it. And I looked at it and said, I think that thing could still run. And so I left a note on the car. And a couple of weeks later, I got a call from the owner. Said, "Do you still want this car?" It's at the junkyard. They're going to cut it up. I said, no, no, don't. And so I gave the guy, I think, $100 for it.
Wow.
And I went and retrieved the car. And the engine, the drivetrain was okay. But the right behind the driver's seat was smashed. You can only lie down in the back seat. And the spare tire in the trunk was permanently embedded in the crushed trunk. And so I got a hold of this car and I took the car, I got a title on it, and I took the car down to Earl Scheib Painters, and I had him paint the entire thing, brand new paint job, same color green. And I went to DMV and I got a license plate of the time of the earthquake, 4 p.m. And that became the earthquake car. And I drove it all over San Francisco. So many people thought it was funny, hilarious, but people that were so invested with the newest Detroit car were really uh, embittered about it. I had a guy in a BMW, get that off the road. I drove around for 5 years. It was in parades. It was in a film. Uh, and I drove it to Burning Man in 1991. So it technically was the first art car at Burning Man.
Do you still have it? Was it still around?
I still have it. It's still in my backyard in Reno.
Uh, it's funny because I lived, me and my wife, like we lived in San Francisco like 94 to 2001. And I remember she worked down in south of Market. It was like near the Caltrain station. And I remember, I think before I even went to Burning Man, I remember seeing that car parked there on the side of the road. And I was like, look at that. And all those
And
years.
then I connected with Herod Blank, and he was the guy that had decorated this Volkswagen Bug called "Oh My God," and he was the son of Les Blank, the filmmaker. And so all of a sudden, this whole art car movement coalesced, became a thing, and we were doing art car events stuff, and then the whole Burning Man art car movement took off also.
Yeah, wow. So, okay, I guess we're getting to the last question. The impact and influence of Burning Man on you and your life. I mean, so, I mean, I don't know if it's been half of your life or, I mean, definitely if you start
Pretty
constantly.
much it
Like,
consumed I've literally given my life to it too, because
yeah, why? Some of the youngsters say today is this is all just a big party, right?
it has changed a lot, but it's still the most incredible thing that's happening. It's you go to a place apart, a completely strange, bizarre environment, and it shifts people's view of reality. In that going out there, it tears your established view of reality away and enables you to reinvent yourself. And I think that's an amazing thing, and it's really important and needed in this day and age.
Yeah. And I mean, you will be involved for the rest of your time, right? I mean, you don't see, yeah, been
Uh,
there, done that.
as much as I can.
Yeah, this is not a bucket list thing for you, right? Let's see. Anything else? Any final words? Anything you want to talk about? Well, I also know that as of late, like some people have you've been a little bit of a hot button issue, like on the social medias, you know, for
We are in interesting times. Uh, I've never seen such conflict in our world and the world of politics. And I think I'd blame a lot of that on the internet. The challenge we have today is that literally too many people believe things that are just not true. There are people that have completely opposing views of the same reality. And there's these mental constructs that people have created in their mind and largely influenced by their self-bias, whatever. And they're fed so much false information. And now with AI, you cannot tell what's real
yeah,
anymore.
yeah.
You can watch a video and you
Swear
know
it's
if it's real
real.
or not.
Yeah.
But then there can be a narrative associated with that video. to fool people into believing something was this way or that way.
Yeah.
And they are going to extremes these days. I mean, the belief systems are just crazy.
Well, for one of
And
the things that for me, I've seen like in social media, like people kind of get siloed, and like the algorithms just kind of feed them the information that just kind of reinforces what they,
absolutely, and that's particularly true in mainstream media. There, yeah, I mean, you cannot believe mainstream media at all anymore.
yeah.
And I think the only place you can find alternative views is on Twitter X. I mean, there's a whole blue sky thing that's off, but it's like a cone of silence around them. They're all just talking to themselves.
Yeah. Well, I think
So
each side kind of
X is
silos
the only
themselves.
place you can really get information,
Yeah.
and you get a lot of false information
Yeah.
too. So it's a challenge finding out what is real.
But another
So
thing is
what I do is I try to cultivate contacts that I know and trust and form this net truth. And that's where we find where things are real and what we can believe in.
yeah. And I mean, another thing I've been thinking about was just like how kind of like impersonal like social media and the internet can be. And like when someone's just like a name or a number, it's like you could be as cold as impersonal as possible. But something like being on the playa, it's like you're physically in the same place with somebody like who you've never met before. And it's like radical inclusion. It's like we welcome this.
That's one of the wonderful things about Burning Man. And I think a cure for the problems that we have is that when you're on the playa, you're there in person and real. You can be real.
Mhm.
As real as wearing a tutu or wearing some absurd costume can be, but it's still real and personal. So that's a big uh, positive point for being at Burning Man or being at many regional events around the world.
Oh yeah. Could you imagine an event on the playa where like some people get together and like reenact or like they read some sort of like stream from social media, like something from some Facebook flame war. And then they have the script and they like I mean just in real life, it's like oh that would be pretty absurd.
I want to see your theme camp for that.
Flame war camp.
You
Yeah. I mean just because like when you're
know,
actually
they're making a Spaceballs too, the movie.
oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. Well, I think we've been going. Yeah. So yeah, any final words? Anything? Any plugs or anything? Any projects you're working on or people who want
If
to see?
you've never been to a Burning Man event, I say go with no expectations.
Mhm. And would you suggest people go to Black Rock City for their first time, or like try out a regional first, or wherever they can get in?
Wherever they can get in.
Yeah. And if anybody wants to reach you, like email or anything, or do you have any way you want to give out? I mean, don't give out your personal phone number, but
Well, I am on Facebook as Danger_Ranger, and it on my primary page it lists my Twitter X account and also my blog. I have a interesting blog that I post to from time to time.
oh yeah. Well, thank you so much. This has been a wonderful interview. And
Mhm.
well,
Let me
that
see if I can call up the blog.
oh, okay. Is that the end of the world one, or no? That's a different thing.
I have many subgroups on Facebook, lots of silly groups. You can join a lot of weird stuff
If we go to
in that.
Danger_Ranger on Facebook, the whole
Yes.
thing. All right, he's just looking it up. But yeah, well, I look forward to seeing you on the playa this year. I wasn't thinking I was gonna be there, but I'm gonna make it there. Gonna be at the Renegade Burning Man Philosophical Center.
Mhm.
All right.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting groups out there, discussion on social media, Facebook.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll put it in the show notes. I mean, I guess for the listeners, if you want to get in touch with Danger Ranger, go to Danger_Ranger at Facebook, and you'll find everything you need there. All
Yes,
right. Well,
indeed.
thank you so much for the interview.
Okay, and thank you for doing what you do.
Thanks. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this show, please subscribe, rate, and review it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. The more reviews the show has, the more likely it will even appear in search results. Also, please tell a friend and share this show with anyone that you think might like it. Word of mouth reaches quite far, especially in the Burning Man community. If you would like to contact us, please send an email to shadowofthemanpodcast@gmail.com. You can also follow Shadow of the Man on social media at Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, X, and YouTube. The links for all of these are available at shadowoftheman.com. Feel free to use any of these social media accounts to provide any feedback you might have. Your thoughts on the show are greatly appreciated. Thank you, and see you soon for a new episode of The Shadow of the Man.
Thank you for listening to this latest show. We have to make another one, so gotta go. Don't worry, for next month we already have one in the can. Very soon you'll be listening to a new Shadow of the Man.